Hello and welcome. My name's Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind the Country Chic Cottage. Today we're going to continue on with the Sawgrass printer and we're going to talk exclusively about Sawgrass Print Manager. I'm going to go in depth into the manager itself, everything you can do inside of it, and show you some tips and tricks for using it. Whether you're printing just with Sawgrass Print Manager, so you can pull a JPEG up in Sawgrass Print Manager, print right from it, or you can use any program on your computer and print to your Sawgrass printer using the Sawgrass Print Manager. This also means that you can print without being online. So you don't have to have an internet connection to print to your Sawgrass printer. You just use the Sawgrass Print Manager to print those files. So I'm going to print directly from Sawgrass Print Manager, and then I'm going to use Google Docs as my example because that's the thing a lot of people are familiar with. But you can use the same procedure I'm going to use with Google Docs with any program on your computer to print to your Sawgrass printer. That means that any program will print to your printer, so whatever you're familiar with and want to use, you can use it with your Sawgrass printer. Now there is a Sawgrass Creative Studio, and we will go over that in another video, and that allows you to resize, use templates, that type of thing. But if you're not ready to go that far, you're not ready to learn something new, you want to stick with the same photo editing program that you've been using for years, Sawgrass Print Manager is what you need. So let's take a look inside Sawgrass Print Manager and get more familiar with the program. First of all, when you install Sawgrass, you will be left with three things on your desktop. You'll have Sawgrass Print Manager, Creative Studio, and a Sawgrass Smart folder. So the first thing I want to say is do not remove the Sawgrass Smart folder. Leave it on your desktop at all times. And this video is going to cover the Sawgrass Print Manager, and I'll have another video covering Creative Studio. So to open Print Manager, you can't just double click the icon here because it's probably already open in your toolbar. So look down at your toolbar and Print Manager will probably be there. If you right click, you can see quite a few options. So right clicking gets you Creative Studio, which would open Creative Studio. Again, we're going to do that in another video. Next is Open Local File. So if you just wanted to print directly out of Print Manager, we could click Open Local File. Find the file that you want to print and click Open. From here we have several options. First of all, you want to pick the substrate that you're putting it on. Let's say that I'm going to put this on a set of polyester socks. I'm going to leave it at polyester. Pick the option here that's closest to what you're using. This should be high quality. Paper, it says True Pix Classic because that is the Sawgrass sublimation paper. You can use any sublimation paper, but just leave this picked as the True Pix. And then the True Pix Classic is in tray 1. And I do want to mirror my design, so I'm going to leave that with the check mark included. And now we can go to layout. Let's take a look at a few things here. First, I'm going to allow the Print Manager to perform the layout. The layout from the designer might be if you're using Creative Studio to lay out a design, or if you used Photoshop to lay it out, you could use this option. However, you'll see here if I choose that for this, it would be 4.6 by 10.25, which is not the size of my paper. You always want these dimensions to be the size of your paper. So we'll click Print Manager Performs Layout, and as you can see, you have some page size options. These are typical paper sizes, and I'm going to choose the 8.5 by 11 paper size. So here we can see a 0 spacing. Let's change this to 1/2 inch just so you get an idea. It moves it 1/2 inch down, 1/2 inch over. So you could use this to space out your designs or move them around in the paper if you would like. When I pulled this up, the trim white space was picked, but let's uncheck that and see what happens. You can see that it's leaving the white space around the design, but to save paper, I can trim that away just by checking this box. I could also center it on the paper if I would like to. With some designs, you could add bleed lines around the outside edge. This particular one, it's going to see the box as the outside edge, so I would definitely not use the bleed lines in this case. And then let's look at this Impose Margins checkbox. If I uncheck it, you can see that the top and the side of my shoe are cut off. It is pushing the design all the way to the left and all the way to the top of the paper. However, there is a certain margin on the left and on the top that is not a printable area. Click the Impose Margins button and it moves the design to where the entire design will print. If we click the Jobs tab, first of all, you can see the file that I'm printing. And you can see how wide and high the file is. You can actually resize your designs right here in Print Manager. So let's say that I wanted this even smaller for some reason. You can make it smaller, and it does lock the aspect ratio. Then I can resize it back. You could also change the pixels per inch and the number of copies. So I could change it and make it 2 copies. This eliminates the need for other programs. Trying to open this and lay it out in another program, I can actually lay it out right in Print Manager. We could also change the color. So color mode vivid is for most things. Photographic you can use for photographs, especially if they have people in them. You could also adjust your color right here in Print Manager. I did want to note when you're adjusting the tint of the color, let's say if I was to adjust this to the green, it just sort of tints it green. It doesn't actually change the object to green. So just note that it just kind of tints the image slightly. This will adjust the contrast. This one adjusts the brightness, and finally the saturation at the bottom. And then at any time you can reset these to be all 0. On the other tab, you can print this to a file instead of printing it to your printer itself. Let's head back to jobs and take a look at one more thing we can do. So I'm going to take this back down to 1 copy, and then there's a plus and a minus here. So I could remove this file by clicking the minus, but I can also add a file. What does that do? So let's add a file to this job. So I'm going to pick a completely different shoe design and click open. And now you can see that I can print multiple images using Print Manager, use up that entire sheet of paper by adding more files, and I don't have to have any other program to do so. Now I would just click print and be able to print to my Sawgrass printer. So I'm going to go ahead and click print on this. So let's explore a little bit more out of Print Manager itself before we go to something like Google Docs here, which I have open that I'm going to print from. So if we right click, we stopped at Open Local File. You can also go to Smart Folder Manager, and you can change some of your defaults. So right now I have my default at polyester because that's what I usually print to put things on. But if you change the default here, if you always use Easy Subli, then you wouldn't have to change it every time. So this is the place where you can change those defaults. You will see the same type of thing that we saw when we printed, but for any of these, if you change them in the Smart Folder Manager, it changes the default when you pull it up. Now something you don't ever want to change again is where the Smart Folder is located, and it is on my desktop. If we right click again, you can go to your printer utilities. You will see quite a bit of maintenance things here. You can see your ink levels as well as your waste levels. You can see your serial number, your IP address, your firmware, all that type of thing. You can run a nozzle check by just clicking here. You can run a head clean on either black, cyan, or magenta yellow, or both, and click clean. You can print a primary chart just by clicking print right here in Sawgrass Print Manager. They also have full page bleeds, so you can do a full bleed of any of your colors. The file spooler would be when Sawgrass Help is helping you with things, and a lot of these would be things that the help desk might ask you to do, but this is where it will be located. And then you can also, from this location, add a new printer. You can go to your printer settings, see what ink you have installed, add a new printer from here if you would like. You can go to your System Printers dialog box or restart your spooler from this window. Then if we right click again, we can see options. And a few of these that you might need would include language if you wanted a different language, units if you wanted different units. You can change how often your status refreshes. And if you want to use PDFs within Print Manager, you will need to download something called GhostScript, and this is where you would download that. And then you can also check your connection settings. Here you can also manage your page sizes. So we took a look at all the page sizes that were available, but if you had something that wasn't in this list, this is where you would add that. So you would put your dimensions in here and then save it as a page size, and then it would be in your drop down when you go to print another time from Sawgrass Print Manager. So now let's say we're in a different program and we want to print to our Sawgrass printer. So I'm in Google Docs. This would be the same if you are in Photoshop, if you're in Cricut Design Space, Silhouette Studio, what have you. So we could go to print, and we would pull down the destination, and in this case I would do See More. And I need to pick the Sawgrass Print Manager from the list. So I'm printing to the Sawgrass Print Manager. And then I'm going to click print. What's going to happen is my computer is going to open up Print Manager. And all of those options I had before when I opened a local file are now available to me, where I can change all of those things. So I can change the layout once again. So I could do Print Manager performs layout again. I could change any of these features that I wanted to change. Again, I could go to jobs. I could add a job if I would like to, just like we did before. However, I printed from Google Docs this time, but it does not matter. You can print from anything and use Print Manager to customize it, including the color and all those other options we talked about before. Now, before we close this out, you do always want to make sure that the dimensions here, which are 8.5 by 11 in my case, match the layout over here and the page size that you have in your sublimation printer. So if I was to do preserve layout from designer, it still says 8.5 by 11 because that's what I had chosen in Google Docs. But if that's not what I had chosen in Google Docs, I might have to play with it a little bit in Print Manager to make sure this says 8.5 by 11 over here on the side. Just always be aware of these dimensions as you're printing to make sure that you get the correct print size before you go ahead and click print. So now you saw how I printed from Sawgrass Print Manager. So my favorite feature, hands down, of Sawgrass Print Manager is being able to pull up any file, JPEG, PNG, whatever, on my computer and print it, and being able to do more than one at a time. So I showed you how to add those two, but you can add, I think it is up to 7 files at a time right in Sawgrass Print Manager to print with your Sawgrass printer. That means if you had like a bunch of small files, you could optimize the layout on your paper and get the most use out of that paper without needing another design program. So if you are not familiar with another design program, or you're in a hurry, maybe you think Sawgrass Print Manager is easier, because it definitely can be, especially like this would have probably taken me way longer with just the 2 shoes in something like Photoshop to lay out than it did with just adding the next one in Sawgrass Print Manager. Super easy to use and a great resource for those of you that have that Sawgrass printer. Now, I do have another video unboxing my Sawgrass printer and setting it up and printing my first print, and I will link to that in the description below. I also have a Sawgrass printer bundle deal. If you are, this video convinced you, you're ready to dive into sublimation printing with a Sawgrass printer, there's a bundle in the description below. So click that link. You get the printer, the ink, the paper. I even included a few blanks and some easy subli for you to play around with. So tons of different things in the bundle to get you started with sublimation printing right out of the box that will be coming to you. So if you are on computer, scroll down and click show more. If you're on mobile, swipe up on the video or click the arrow to expand the description. You'll get a list of links of things I've used, other videos you may enjoy, and my social media, as well as my free sublimation class. So head there, click those links, and enjoy. So if you liked this video, if it helped you, give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions about Sawgrass Print Manager, please ask those in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We have videos just like this one every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.